What's good with the YouTube? A Convicts perspective, it's your boy, Big Flaco. And I'm smashing, I'm dashing, and I'm sliding on through with what? Little bit of energy. And as you can tell by the title, man, we're going to get straight to it. Modesto, California, Motown. Triple homicide in 2012. Initially, as this case started to develop, they had more and more people arrested. Ended up being 7 people charged in this case. Okay. So, let's take it back a little bit about this case, man. Okay, so around 2012, right? This case is going to get crazy, just so you know. There was an 18-year-old girl that was pregnant, teenager. Okay, she had a 31-year-old boyfriend who was the father of the unborn child. And so what was going on in the household is she was being bounded, she was being victimized, she was being burnt with lighters by not only her future baby dad, but by his friend. Okay, so they were part of this crew out there called the Empire Boys, Nortenos, and so eventually they got arrested. Went to jail. They did a raid over there. They found, I think, $6,500 in cash, methamphetamines, all kinds of stolen goods, and they ended up going in there and they ended up getting some type of a. They ended up getting released. I don't know if they took a deal or if they were out on bail or whatnot, but they ended up getting out. And so Modesto law enforcement, right, knowing the abuses that was going on to this girl, knowing about the drug trafficking that was going on over here, they decided to put some surveillance cameras up. Okay. This is where it gets kind of interesting. So on the night of the murders in question, they had full vision of everything that was going on. You had individuals out there that were scraping the bullets, putting on gloves outside the house, you know, and they had different traffic going in and out during this time period. Okay. The 18-year-old girl that was pregnant, when all this occurred, she ended up hiding in the house. Okay. The casualties of this event was you ended up with 3 people dead. A 16-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 31-year-old. All victims. Okay. Now, Modesto police started putting out the surveillance photos, trying to get all these suspects. And eventually they ended up getting 6 people at first and eventually 7. Now, one of those individuals they got was an individual named Robert Beto Palomino. Beto from Tulare County. Okay, he was out there in charge of Modesto for a minute. He was in charge of the county jail. He's the same one that ordered Travieso removed when he got his eye hit, Joe Ramirez. Okay, so in the process of all this happening, you know, that the activities, it just looks like it was for some reason they targeted these individuals. I don't know if they were getting dope from the regiment. I don't know if they owed money. I don't know if they weren't kicking in. I don't know what the case was, man. But when you look at the whole case, and I read some of the stuff about it, it just looks like a total disaster. You had too many people involved. You know, anytime you have a murder case, right, that involves 7 different people, it's a total breach of security, you know, and it just goes to show that some people have no, I'm not going to say remorse, but they have no remorse for human life. Because you even took an underage kid, 16 years old, another one that's 19. They're dead. Their lives were took over what they were trying to do. Get some dope, get some money, invade the house. You know, in law enforcement, man, the way they were able to crack this case, though, right, was because they had those cameras, like I said. So these guys are sitting there straight on camera. You can see everything. Okay, now somewhere along the lines, Beto Palomino dropped out. He's no longer active. I don't know if it has to do with this case. I don't know if it has to do with his actions. But anytime you have 7 people arrested over one murder case, that's the biggest breach of security that you could have. You know, was it really worth it? Because now you have 7 different lives that are going to be affected in addition to these 3 individuals. So as I've been trying to brainstorm and look at this case, man, it's kind of crazy, man, because I looked at other cases out there in Modesto. Modesto be about that action. You know, there was another case where a dude killed a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and the mom. You know, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's in that water out there, man. But them cats out there are definitely with the action, man. And in this case, man, you know, What was the value of what they were doing? You know what I'm saying? I get it, the cost of doing business, but I don't see that these individuals as doing enough to where you have to go in there and home invade and take a life. So somewhere along the lines, if this issue had to have occurred, I wonder how it ties into the gang enhancements, because these dudes that lived at that house, they were Nortenos. They were definitely with the functions, but their actions were kind of contrary, because that's not Norteño conduct that's going to be acceptable. You 31 years old, you shouldn't be with an 18-year-old. That goes to show me that you got her pregnant when she was underage, first and foremost. Second, you don't beat a woman like that. You don't burn her with lighters. You don't gag her. And let alone, this is supposed to be your future baby mama. You don't let your friend do it too. It shows that these dudes had no respect. So I don't know if that's why they were targeted. I don't know if they were inactives, because that type of behavior is unbecoming of what I've always been schooled, what I've always been taught. Stuff's going to happen. People are going to make wrong choices. People are going to get a little abusive towards their ladies. It's not acceptable, but it's going to happen with some individuals out there. But to the extent of what this was happening right here, man, this is terrible, and, law enforcement was paying attention to this, and these guys all they got burnt by doing a stupid ass hit. You got to be cautious of what you're doing out there, man. The 18-year-old girl, she ended up living. She's alive. She had her baby. She was hidden in the house when all this occurred, man. And I can't imagine what trauma she's going to have to go through the rest of her life, because not only did her baby daddy, right, beat her, bounded her, did all this horrible stuff to her, right? But she was in the house and heard the gunshots that killed her own brother. Just think about how the mental issues that she's going to have as she grows up, and I don't understand, in my time era and the things that we did, right? We did some treacherous stuff, right? We kicked in doors, we laid people down. We did some stuff that's like, beast mode, straight treacherous. Because if you're going to be part of any of these type of organizations, you have to be treacherous. And what I mean by treacherous is not only with that action, not only about that business, but you got to be ready to go there to any extent. But there still has to be some type of moral compass. I never did any type of licks or sent anybody to go any type of job that would involve any type of kids or woman in the house. It's just not acceptable, especially one that's not even in the game, So I think there was a lot more issues going on in this household. It seems like every time there's an NF related case out there in Modesto, it's some type of crazy stuff. Either, a pregnant woman's in the house, or, a child gets killed. So people have to really think about their actions. What I mean? I don't promote any type of gang activity or violence anymore. What I'm saying, out there in the streets. But at the same token, people are going to do what they're going to do. And like I said this time and time again, the actions that I used to take on the street, excuse me, were just the cost of doing business. It wasn't personal. If you're living that life in that circle, these are the things that you have to expect. And that's the message in everything that I'm saying right now is, regardless of what you got going on out there in the streets, if you're gangbanging, you're selling dope, you're working for the regiment, or you're not working for a regiment, if you out there in the streets, the reality is at any time, anything can happen. And you have to be prepared and be ready to be accountable and expect consequences for those actions. It happens all the time. There's nothing good that comes with selling dope. There's nothing good that comes with doing licks. Because just one wrong decision, one slip up, I don't care how much of a smooth operator you are, law enforcement's always going to be 10 steps ahead of you. And you got to ask yourself, is it really worth it? And like I said, this case is crazy. Beto Palomino, he's no longer active. I don't know what his situation is, why he defected. I don't know why he did all that. But I think in looking at this case, there's a lot of red flags. This is not the way in which you're supposed to conduct business. 6, 7 people involved in a triple homicide. Anytime you have any type of heat in taking someone's life, especially a triple homicide, it's going to bring law enforcement's attention. That's why a lot of times these organizations and groups, I'm not going to say they farm it out, but they put out kind of directives out there. These people need to go. You know what I mean? There's a green light on this dude. And basically what that does is you're basically passing the buck to a whole nother crew that's not associated with you. And you hope that your street soldiers, who maybe have no interaction with you, just go out there and take care of business. Oh, this dude did this, we're going to go get him. And that's how they try to put that camouflage around their operations. Because if you have things popping off in the streets that are not directly linked to you, but it's occurring, it's going to bring a lot less attention upon what you're doing. If that makes any sense. This is a sad case, the woman was beat. I don't believe in anybody should at any time hit a woman, but there's people out there that just don't know how to maintain their anger, and take it out on the woman. And I cannot imagine with all the stuff that she went through, how she's feeling today. Anyways, man, this is an interesting case, man. And, Beto, he's been around for a minute. He's a little bit older than me. He was well schooled. He was well respected. He was well known up there in the Bay. But his actions around this case and this scenario, man, was just, I don't know if he was already setting himself up after this case because he knew he was going to fall out of favor. Because his actions in between, afterwards, in the county jail, he started to do a lot of questionable stuff, man. It almost seemed like he was self-sabotaging a lot of individuals and having a personal agenda, knowing that he was no longer going to be active. That's just a personal opinion from all the things that I've heard. And this wasn't it. This wasn't who he was before. I knew him very well. He was a solid individual. He was pushing a hard line. But sometimes people get to a position to where they get that status. All the stuff that they used to be, they become somebody else because they feel they have to live up to the status and this pressure that they can't maintain the focal point of what they need to do on a daily basis. Because if you do, you wouldn't worry about doing a lick and having a triple homicide. That's the biggest mistake that you can make in any of these groups is bringing too much heat upon your operations. I looked at some of the, earlier I was telling you about the photos. Man, these guys were just out there on blast, like 2:30 in the morning. The camera was directly on these individuals, man. There's no way around it. The case is pretty much a wrap. Anyways, man, this is just a quick spiel, man, about the situation out there in Modesto. This occurred like about in 2012, but it hasn't really got too much attention. A couple times people sent me little articles about it. They're like, man, do a spill on this, man. So I did the research into it, and the case is very, very interesting because you had a previous case that intertwines with this one that brought the proper equipment by law enforcement because they had this house under surveillance. It's kind of reminiscent of the recent issue that happened out there in San Jose, where there was a certain individual where something went down and someone's life got took, but the whole time he was under FBI scrutiny and task force was following them, and they witnessed the murder right in front of them. This is almost identical to that. And that's what happens with this street life, man. So that's the message for today, man, is you never know who's watching. It's better to live a life that's positive, not affected by these influences, because then you're going to be able to continue to live your life. When you get involved in issues like this, street regiment business and people that are out there, running wild on that dope, people that are part of your crew that don't have your best interest at heart, that are only worried about their ego or about fat in their pocket, these are the scenarios that happen. So you're putting your life in the hands of another individual when you decide to associate with these groups, when you decide to associate with gangs. And if you're not ready for the consequences, I'm telling you right now, then step on back. Don't be involved. Go another direction in your life. Because time and time again, you got a lot of people up there in the Bay, a lot of people like Salinas Valley, Solano, that have been down 20, 25 years. And quite as it's kept, they may not tell people, but I guarantee you, majority of them regret the decisions and choices they made. And if they can go back in time, they would change it. Because otherwise, the only life you're going to know is in a prison cell. The only life you're going to know is sharing a cell with another man. And for me personally, I'd rather be out here free. I'd rather be out here, you know what I mean, with a woman. I'd rather be out here doing what I want to do. I don't want to give my control not only over to the correctional staff, but to the prison politics I align with. So it's much better for you out here to make positive decisions. Because in this whole case, man, everything I witnessed was sloppy, and a lot of people breached and jeopardized each other. Therefore, now you got this current case. Anyways, man, I'm rambling on, man. Little something. Rojo is busy today. I told him I would knock out some content. It's your boy Flaco, Convicts Perspective. I'm out.